At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports presents Josh Graham.
It is the Josh Graham Show, and since yours truly is a die-hard Carolina Hurricanes fan, the anxiety is palpable ahead of Habs-Canes Game 2 tonight, but that isn't the Eastern Conference Finals we're starting today's show with, because in Cleveland, the New York Knicks have an opportunity to take a complete stranglehold of this series with a road win tonight. And while it's being framed as one team having all the urgency in the world tonight, there should be urgency for both the Knicks and the Cavaliers. Yes, that even applies to New York leading this series 2-0. If the Knicks' goal is to win it all, ending the 53-year drought and winning perhaps the most meaningful NBA title this century for that sport, they need this to be a quick series. They can't have this go 6 or 7 games. When you have a lead guard who's on the smaller end, that's your best player in Jalen Brunson, you want him to be as rested as possible because generally speaking, history tells us the further you get in the playoffs, the more worn down smaller guards tend to get. But this is more about who's on the other side of the bracket. You've watched Spurs Thunder. Obviously, both of those teams, they are better than New York is. They're better than the Knicks, both those teams. But they're beating the hell out of each other right now. 53 fouls last night in the 15-point win for OKC at San Antonio. 53 fouls in 48 minutes. Tons of injuries. The skirmish with Mitchell fouling Steph Castle hard at the basket. If you're the Knicks watching this, you're thinking, good. That's what you want. If New York can win this finals, the conference finals, in 4 or 5 games, while the Thunder and Spurs go to war with each other for 6 or 7, that gives them a shot at their first title in 53 years. Because, knock on wood, the Knicks, they don't have any injuries at all to speak about. And OKC, we don't know about Jalen Williams. San Antonio, Dylan Harper didn't look himself last night. De'Aaron Fox was hobbled in his return in the second half. And we're only 3 games into that series. So that's the urgency from New York's perspective. If you want to win a title, win this series in 4 or 5 games. Handle your business tonight. As for the Cavaliers, obviously, they need to win this game. It doesn't take Sherlock Holmes to see that there hasn't been a team in NBA history fall behind 3-0 in a best-of-7 series and win it. They have the opportunity here to protect home court. We all know the adage. It's not a series until a team wins on the road. That doesn't really feel like it's the case in this series, though. If we're being honest, Cleveland really needed to steal Game 1. We all saw how much The long layoff affected New York, the slow start they got off to, and that was the game to get the Knicks at MSG. When the Knicks are the higher seed, they get one more home game than you are allotted. You have to win a game on the road. That was the one to get, and you didn't get it. And you blow a 22-point lead in the fourth quarter to boot. That likely lingered in the Game 2 loss on Thursday night. With that said, though, if you want to paint an optimistic view for the Cleveland Cavaliers, don't forget that Cleveland trailed Detroit 2-0 in the last round, then went on to win 3 straight games and ended up winning the series with a road win in Game 7. So perhaps they can do it again here. So who wins tonight? Who wins between the Knicks and the Cavs? Will Dalton, Josh Jacobs, hit me with that New York Knicks anthem. Go New York, go New York, go! Will Dalton, why don't we make songs like this anymore?
I mean,
not Indiana.
That's a fair question. I mean, is there really a recent example of this?
No, you know why it is, though, right? Like, Carolina
don't.
Hurricanes even have an anthem that I play. I need to post that on my X page at Josh Graham Show. I'm going to do that. Like a cheesy song from the 2000s that they had. A lot of teams had this, and you don't do it anymore. It's also the reason why, Will, I believe we don't have a lot of great comedies in the last 10, 15 years either. And the answer is self-awareness. I think people don't like getting nitpicked and made fun of on social media. Back in the day when you couldn't see those types of comments, you just did things because you thought it was funny, and it might be corny, but you're not assuming that it's going to be talked about by everybody, everywhere, and everybody having a platform to pick fun at it and nitpick you. That's the theory in my mind. But I like the Knicks tonight, and I also like the Knicks 90s anthems that are cheesy and fun. Make more of those in sports, please. It's a significant deal. Going back to rest, it is a significant deal that there aren't going to be any extra travel days in this series. Usually, after the first 2 games, you'd see a 3-day gap between games being played. And we're not seeing that. Not yet, and not at any point in this series. And because the Knicks swept in the last round, they're playing just their 3rd game in the last 2 weeks. They're rested. That's fine for them. The Cavaliers, meanwhile, this is their 4th game in 3 different cities this week. Playoff games, high-level games. This isn't the regular season where, okay, we can just load manage here or whatever. No, this is you playing for your life, a Game 7 and now a must-win game. That's a lot. And they've played back-to-back 7-game series prior to this one. That catches up with you. Also, the Knicks, they're simply just a better constructed basketball team than the Cavs. They have urgency for the reasons we just spelled out. They have more guys you trust in the playoffs to deliver. So we like the Knicks to go up 3-0 in this best-of-7 Eastern Conference Finals. This segment, sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance. They protect small businesses with affordable coverage options. Get a quote today at progressivecommercial.com. Here's a question. Josh Jacobs, see if you can field some calls. He's taking your calls on this question I have related to the NFL. 310-840-4910. Will Dalton, the producer of this program today. This is the Josh Graham Show on Westwood One Sports. When it comes to the NFL and its international policy, its growing international policy, initiative, agenda, whatever word you want to use, how far would be too far for the NFL? How far is crossing the line? Where is the line for the NFL? 310-840-4910. Because there's a headline in the NFL this week you might have missed, but is awful, awful news for football fans. Let me put it this way. The NFL's international policy is bad, bad news for football fans. The news this week, they're going to continue to play more international games. That's not the issue. But the news that was coupled with it is what you should be red in the face about. If you're in an NFL city, if you know businesses or work at a business or own a business that is positively affected by having NFL games played in your city, you should take issue with this news. There should have been an uprising that, frankly, we did not see this week. Based on this headline alone, the NFL is no longer allowing teams to protect certain home games from being international dates. This is awful. Think about certain rivalries. How wrong it would feel if the Bears hypothetically don't visit Lambeau Field in a given year, or if the Steelers don't visit Baltimore, or vice versa. Think about the NFC East rivalries. But protections are even more necessary when you think about cross-conference games. A good example this year, one of the monumental marquee games on the NFL slate is when the Chiefs visit the Seattle Seahawks. It's Kenneth Walker's return to Seattle. It's the Super Bowl MVP facing his former team. Two really good. This is a high-level game. This would be the type of game the NFL might look at and say, you know what? If no protections exist, maybe we'll send that game to Dublin. High-level game. Just like they did with LA, the Rams facing San Francisco in Australia in the opener. But the reason why that would be awful for a cross-conference game, this is the first time that Seattle's faced Kansas City in 4 years. That's what you normally get with cross-conference games. Your cycle, you play each other for every 4 years. But that means that you don't visit certain NFL stadiums, but every 8 years. Because if it's a rotation, 4 years ago was in Kansas City at Arrowhead, and then it was 4 years before that, the last time they visited Seattle. That was the first year that Patrick Mahomes was the starting quarterback for the Chiefs. The next time he's slated to visit Seattle is 2034. Do you think that's a good thing? That certain teams don't visit certain cities? Like, your marquee team, your marquee quarterback doesn't visit Seattle for 16 years, or maybe only plays there once in his entire NFL career? That's not good. And you teams should be able to protect certain home games because they know that better than probably the schedule makers do, having to account for so much just to put the damn thing together, put that grid together. And there are way more than enough games to schedule around this, especially when the league ultimately expands to 18 games per team. But really, this is about a message that the NFL is sending that isn't a good one. It's a recent message that the NFL has sent, and the message is this. We've taken the American football audience for granted. We know we have you captured. You're willing to show up in millions to cities to watch the draft for 3 days, and we can sell that to cities, traveling it around the city to city. You will watch an NFL schedule release show on network TV in prime time or on cable TV, even though you've known the opponents for months. You'll watch the combine on national television as well. We know we have you. We could put an entire halftime show in Spanish and it be completely fine in the most watched show, period, in American television history. And the reason they said they did it was to reach international audiences, reach people that don't like football yet. And in turn, taking games away from those that do already love football. So again, the question is, how far is too far for the NFL to go? This is the same mistake. I was thinking a lot about NASCAR because my feet are on the ground in North Carolina. The Coca-Cola 600 is Sunday. Kyle Busch passed away in our state. Tragic, tragic news. But when NASCAR was at its peak in the 2000s, Kyle Busch was the villain. You had Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, and they decided they had the same policy. Hey, we need the sport to grow, so we're going to try to go to untraditional markets, go to places that generally don't like stock car racing, and we're going to prioritize that over going to certain southern tracks and having certain races that have always been in certain places on holiday weekends and moving things around. Just talk to the folks at Darlington, talk to the folks at North Wilkesboro, They took it for granted. Hey, let's go to New Hampshire. Let's go to Vegas. Let's go to let's go to California. Let's try to grow NASCAR. And if you look at the ratings in the 2000s, they were incredible for a long period of time. But then last decade, the ratings, they nosedived. And what NASCAR found was the fans that they took for granted in the South, they decided to do something else. They weren't there once they figured out they care so much about them. Could that happen to the NFL? This international policy, it's not a breaking point, by the way. Not saying that it is. But I do believe there could be one. And there are two moves that come to mind that would be breaking points on this front. If they send a Super Bowl overseas, that would be a bridge too far. The shining American event, the Super Bowl, going to London would be a horrific look. By the way, congrats to Nashville. We learned this week getting the 2030 Super Bowl officially. And the other thing, if they just sent a team overseas, as has been discussed, that would be too far. It would be absurd. It would be a risk, and it would not be positive. Those would be moves that could be breaking points on this front. But this international policy is trending in the direction of the NFL doing too much and maybe crossing some lines that are going to anger football fans, or at least should anger football fans. 310-840-4910 if you want in on that topic, in addition to getting to calls. We are seeing the most unpredictable postseason in professional sports make itself known. That's next on The Josh Graham Show.
The Thunder have taken back home court. Will they take a commanding 3-1 lead? We'll find out. Game 4 is tomorrow night. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports presents Josh Graham.
When it comes to the NFL's international policy, how far would be too far? 310-840-4910. We're also on YouTube and on X, at Josh Graham Show on X. On YouTube, it's Westwood One Sports Night, where Hot Carlito writes in, I didn't mind watching a halftime show in Spanish, probably because as a kid I used to watch whole Dragon Ball Z episodes on Telemundo. That sounds like something right for Will Dalton, right in Will's wheelhouse. Or Willhouse.
Yeah, I would absolutely do that. 100%.
Sounds about right. 310-840-4910. Transitioning things. We talked about the Eastern Conference Finals in the NBA tonight, like the Knicks to go up 3-0 over the Cavs. But how about we just focus on everything that's going on in hockey right now? The NHL. Totally forgot that we've given Josh Jacobs the ability, carte blanche, to interrupt the show with a goal horn whenever I'm being obnoxious about my hockey team, the Carolina Hurricanes. I didn't even bring up... I guess for those watching on YouTube or on X, you could see I have a Carolina Hurricanes pullover on right now. And Denton Day, who works with us at Westwood One Sports, said, if the Canes get down, you can just put on the rally hat. That was just his way for me to put on the Carolina Hurricanes helmet that's in the studio here while trying to do a show. So
you looked really upset. You look kind of sad in that picture.
Was very upset. Not happy at all.
6-2, you should have been.
Almost took the night. Aren't you a Canes fan too?
Yes, I am.
Oh, you should have been.
I mean, I'm not. You know what it is? I'm so used to talking crap about your Orioles that I forget we're aligned on this one. It's just a natural thing.
Or you're just a fraud that only roots for them
I'm
when they're in the playoffs or when they're good. Get out of here. Get off my screen. get out of sight. Because it's not just the Canes. I didn't even really want to start with the Canes. We'll get to them. But as a whole, just want to talk about hockey. Let's do that hockey. The NHL has separated itself as having the most unpredictable postseason in all of professional sports. Look no further than the Colorado Avalanche. Going into the playoffs, they were viewed as the most dominant force in hockey, with Nate McKinnon and former Carolina Hurricane Marty Necas. Careful. They were the President's Trophy winners, Colorado. They backed it up with starting the postseason 8-1. Lost one game their first two series. But, if you've been following, the Avalanche have dropped both their home games in the Western Conference Finals, including a blown third-period lead in Game 2 last night. They trailed John Tortorella's Las Vegas Golden Knights 2-0 going back to the desert. Colorado looks like a team really missing its star right-handed shot defenseman, Cole Makar, who's missed the first two games. And you know an injury is bad when hockey players are missing time in the Stanley Cup playoffs. That brings us to the Carolina Hurricanes. The Canes have made Okay, that's enough. Get the idea. The Canes have made 8 straight playoff appearances. 8 straight. They've won series in 8 straight playoffs. This is the 4th conference finals trip during that stretch. They had the best record in the East during the regular season. But here's the thing. It's not just a regular season occurrence. Kind of like with Colorado. During the playoffs, they swept their first 2 series. They translated it and looked the part. We haven't seen a team start the playoffs 8-0 to sweep their first 2 series since the 1985 Edmonton Oilers with Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, 7 Hall of Famers on that team, an all-time NHL legendary squad. So, of course, with Wayne Gretzky in the building, Carolina found itself down 4-1 15 minutes into Game 1 Thursday night. Montreal winning the game 6-2 in Raleigh. But going back to the unpredictability of these playoffs, this is par for the course. Shame on us for thinking we were on a Colorado-Carolina collision course. Both these teams 0-3 now in the conference finals, all those games being played on home ice. Will Dalton, the last time, do you want to take a guess the last time 2 number 1 seeds met in the Stanley Cup final? Like, think about it in the context of the NBA, where you generally have the top seeds play each other. And the NFL, I think we saw the Niners and the Chiefs were both number 1 seeds with the bye playing in a Super Bowl. Take a guess how long it's been in the NHL.
Maybe 20 years?
25. 2001. We haven't seen 2 number 1 seeds meet in the Stanley Cup final in 25 years. That's what makes it the most unpredictable postseason in American professional sports. We'll see what the Hurricanes do tonight. Okay, Jacobs, you can hit it one more time. Facing Montreal in Game 2. Game 2. Make sure, if you haven't already, you're subscribed on the podcast. Westwood One Sports Night, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on YouTube. Westwood One Sports Night. It's how you can watch the show in addition to listening to it. Will, what do you make of this comment? Doubler writing in. So the Canes are the Atlanta Braves of the 90s?
It's not a bad comp, I guess. Kinda. Maybe.
Well, only if they win it one time.
Yeah. That's right.
Can they
got to do that.
win it one time first? If they do that, then they're the Atlanta Braves of the 90s. Trying to think if there's a better comp than that. Again, would like to compare them to Oklahoma City, but you got to win. This level of dominance over a long period of time, can't think of an example of being right there. Maybe, you know who they are, maybe, Will? The Buffalo Bills this century.
Okay, that's a good comparison.
Because
as of
Super
right
Bowl,
now,
Bills haven't even gotten to the Super Bowl. And they're the Hurricanes, despite how good they are. The one big difference would be the Canes are doing all this because of all their depth and how good they are in their system and their toughness and coaching. But they don't really have a superstar. Obviously, the Buffalo Bills have a superstar. 310-840-4910. We asked the NFL question, how far the NFL would have to go for it to be too far on the international front. Let's see what Kevin in Milwaukee thinks about it. 310-840-4910. Kevin, how far is too far?
Yeah, I think it's too far. I mean, I don't see them bringing a Super Bowl over there, but I could see them absolutely bringing a playoff game overseas. And to the point that you were making earlier about the cross conference plays, that's really going to come into factor for warm weather games for teams that play in Tampa coming up to Lambeau Field or open air stadiums. I mean, them not being able to protect those games is a huge advantage that we have with those home games. So I think that that's also too far.
Help me out on this, Kevin. How could you send any other postseason game overseas than the Super Bowl? Because then you run into preparation, travel time, disadvantages. The only way you could send a postseason game to an overseas site would be the Super Bowl, because that's the only postseason game that is a neutral site game, one, and two, allows for the amount of rest necessary 2 weeks before to make it make sense.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I don't see how it could be possible to do it. I could see them doing it though. They're trying to make money. They've been expanding over there. That just seems like the next step is to put a big game over there.
I get it. I appreciate the call. It's good to hear from you, Kevin. Hope you'll give us a shout back. It would really be upsetting, the hypothetical I gave, if at Lambeau Field, not far from where you're at, the Chicago Bears aren't playing there because they decided, hey, that's a marquee game. That'd look pretty good playing in Berlin. Let's throw that game in Mexico City or Australia. Just think that's a little too far, or maybe a lot too far. While we got a minute, let's get into checking the scoreboard a bit. Love what we're seeing in the NL Central. The NL Central, see, Memorial Day is always a weekend that you circle on the Major League Baseball calendar because it's a good point to kind of assess where your team is 2 months into the season. Are you buyers? Are you sellers? The NL Central, every team has a winning record. And that's nuts. They're all good. Paul Skeens not getting much run support right now. 1 run allowed at the Toronto Blue Jays. Top 6. He only has a couple of Ks, so not the best Paul Skeens stuff. But the Blue Jays leading the Pirates right now in the 6th. Rain is the big story. The Yankees-Rays game today is postponed to be made up in September. Orioles-Tigers, rained out. My dad, my family actually, is all in Cooperstown. They'd never been to Cooperstown before this weekend. They say that a lot of stuff has been rained out, but apparently they just ran into Raleigh Fingers and Wade Boggs. You never know who you'll run into at the Baseball Hall of Fame. Do we have a rain delay in the St. Louis game here? We do not, and it actually just went final. We do have a final today. Game 1 of a doubleheader. St. Louis 8, Cincinnati 1. And what I love so much about this, how about Brian Torres, the 28-year-old Puerto Rican outfielder, in his first Major League Baseball game, his MLB debut, he hits a home run batting in the 8th spot. family in attendance, great American ballpark on Memorial Day weekend, and in the first game of a doubleheader, he hits his first big league home run. You love to see that. Cleveland-Philly was probably the best game that's supposed to start this hour, but that's in a rain delay. Cubs are down 3-0, bottom 9 to Houston. That's about to wrap up. Other games just getting started. Chicago, the White Sox, are at the horrific San Francisco Giants. Minnesota 2, Boston no score at Fenway Park. Juan Soto hit one to the third deck last night, but that's the only run the Mets scored. They lost to the Marlins, bottom 2nd. That is no score. Atlanta's just been rolling. Best record in the National League, and they are at no score with the Washington Nationals, top 2nd, and just getting underway. Seattle and Kansas City. Kansas City already putting up a 3 spot at Kauffman Stadium, leading 3-0. You'll also have lacrosse, where Notre Dame in an all-ACC bout in the Final Four of men's college lacrosse. Notre Dame 9, Syracuse 5, close again on the end of the third quarter. Princeton already beat Duke earlier today, the championship game in men's lacrosse on Monday. Need to check in on how the dominant women's lacrosse team at North Carolina is going to fare. They have their championship game tomorrow against Northwestern. Both those teams, though, super dominant. Big weekend in lacrosse, the Final Four taking part in Charlottesville, Virginia. Up next, the best story in sports right now might not be what you're immediately thinking it is. Keep it here on The Josh Graham Show.
It's the NCAA Division I men's lacrosse semifinals. Number 1 Princeton faces Duke, followed by number 2 Notre Dame versus number 6 Syracuse. Today at noon Eastern. Listen on the Westwood One Sports app. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will be in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports presents Josh Graham.
What is the best story in sports right now? At least in American sports. With respect to those who follow European soccer, we don't need to have our feed completely light up with Arsenal. Did you see what happened with Arsenal? Yes, we all saw it. But fine, if that's the platform you want, I'll even broaden it the way that would include them as well. Because I think I can top Arsenal. The Tampa Bay Rays are the best story in sports right now. 310-840-4910 if you want it. No, it's not the New York Knicks being on the doorstep of getting to the finals for the first time this century. No, it's not that both the Hurricanes and the Avalanche trail in their best-of-7 conference finals after walking through the first two series. Nope, it is the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays are the best story in sports right now, and if you haven't been following, the odds were completely stacked against this team heading into the season. They aren't spenders. Once again, 24th in payroll in Major League Baseball. They're positioned in the gauntlet that is the AL East with a Yankee team that looks strong. And yes, even the reigning champion Toronto Blue Jays that have the third highest payroll in the sport. Plus, let's just look at the turmoil that surrounded the team. Off the field, organizationally. This was a team that was displaced from its home all of last season, having to play in some Mickey Mouse AAA ballpark because of what a hurricane did to Tropicana Field late 2024, ripping apart, ravaging the roof at the Trop. You had all the speculation about relocation, stuff that was not at all related to the quality of Kevin Cash's baseball team. While nobody expected much from the Rays, they are the best team in the American League right now. And when you look at the standings, it isn't particularly close That's the part that's nuts. The Tampa Bay Rays are 5 games better than the closest team to them in the American League. They are 34-15. Garrett Cole has his first start of the season. Hey, Will Dalton, trivia question. When's the last time that Garrett Cole pitched prior to last night?
I actually don't know the answer to that. Did he miss an entire year, right? Or not a full season, but like it was very early in the season when he got hurt. So close to a year,
Let me jog your memory. Let me jog your memory. It was October 30th, 2024. It was 5-0 Yankees. Bases were loaded, 2 outs when Mookie Betts grounded a ball to first base and Garrett Cole didn't cover first. And then Aaron Judge dropped a baseball in center field and they blew a World Series game.
Gee, thanks.
Prior to last night, that was the last time Garrett Cole had pitched in a game. A year and a half. Tommy John prior to the 2025 baseball season. So, Garrett comes out there and he looks great. 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, no runs allowed. The Rays still win the baseball game. Because that's what they do. And, Will, I've disowned until they sweep a series. My Orioles.
You've done it already.
I'm so upset with them because watching the Orioles play the Rays was one of the most frustrating experiences of my life. Because
you've had some of those.
When they do things so well, any team by comparison looks just defunct by comparison. They do everything right. They slap hit, they hit the opposite field, they don't make any errors. Every time they challenge, they get it. Every time they challenge balls and strikes, they get it. They have it all figured out. They're so good. If you love baseball, you would love watching the Tampa Bay Rays because they do everything right. Base running. Every batter has a terrific approach at the plate. Fun pitching staff with a lot of depth. And what makes it even better is that Tampa has done all this back in the confines of Tropicana Field. They returned ahead of schedule. The Stingrays are back in there. It's good fun. But they represent an edict that makes baseball special. Payroll doesn't guarantee success. If it did, the Mets wouldn't be 7 games under 500 right now. In the AL East, both the Red Sox and the Blue Jays would be over 500, which they're not. The best teams are the ones that evaluate talent best, that know when to move off of people and know how to allocate their money, not necessarily spend the most of it, know how to foster a winning system, know what style to scout to. Do you know who has the second best record? Here's your chance at redemption, Will Dalton. Second best record in the American League belongs to
Cleveland.
The Cleveland Guardians. 29th highest payroll in baseball out of 30 teams. 24th, 29th, the 2 best records in the American League right now. And the Milwaukee Brewers have the best record. They're leading the NL Central, the best division in baseball where everybody has a winning record, 21st highest payroll. So they are, Tampa, the best story in sports. Right up there with the tarps off movement, Will. What would it take for you to take your top off at a baseball game?
You could just ask.
Is that enough?
I mean, if if my Yankees were getting it fired up, if they were rallying, I mean, I probably would. I want all
You
rise.
and the boys
Here comes the judge.
Would find the section and then just go tarps off. What I think about is like the people who have tickets in that section in the upper deck generally who didn't know that was the tarps off section. It's like a grandma and a grandpa. And they're like,
yeah.
what's happening here? Oh my goodness, they all don't have shirts on. And then he looks over to grandma and says, I got to do it. I got to do it now. I got to go tarps off. 310-840-4910. What would it take for you to go tarps off at a game? And are the Rays the best story in sports? And if they're not, what is? 310-840-4910. But we have Dave in Tampa. Dave, couple of things. The two questions we're asking this hour. How far does the NFL have to go too far when it comes to their international agenda and their international policy? And are the Rays the best story in sports? You seem equipped to answer on both fronts.
Yeah, real quick, Josh. I'm so glad I found you guys, and I will definitely be a regular. The
Thanks,
Tampa
Dave.
thing is just unheard of, and what they are doing is that's what's great about sports.
I agree.
What they're doing.
I think it's marvelous for sure. Did you have any thoughts on the NFL internationally before we let you go?
Well, yeah, real quick, Josh, see if what really is a horror movie to me. I understand the NFL on the international level. I understand it completely. If they were to decide to take our team to another, let's say London, okay, it would break my heart. It would ruin the NFL. I would suggest that the NFL, get these London to start their own league. Just give them all the input they could, but do not have an international team.
You mean like NFL Europe all over again?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, what I'm saying is, let's say we have a London's team in the NFL, but we make it international that way. Americana is what I'm looking at. NFL is so Americana. I suggest the NFL, they've got their footprint, Spain, Australia, London area. Give them the insight of how to build their own leagues.
I like the idea, Dave. I appreciate the call, too, and I hope you'll give us a shout back. Go Rays, tarps off, the whole deal. There goes Dave and Tampa, 310-840-4910. How many NFL Europe teams can you name, Will Dalton? Do you remember NFL Europe?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Well, then how about you look up the team names then, because having you guess won't make any sense. And let's see how many I can get off the top of my head, because right off the dome, I forget which one Jake Delhomme played for, but I remember the Frankfurt Galaxy. I remember, I don't know what Hamburg's mascot was. The Berlin Thunder, I won't forget that. And the Amsterdam Admirals. Oh, London Monarchs. That was another one, right? Is that one?
I don't see that on here.
Maybe that's hockey. Rhine.
So
the Fire.
Yeah.
The Rhine Fire. And that's all I got. There probably was some other ones in like Spain.
You
and
got
other places
the Hamburg Sea Devils.
Devils.
Yeah. The Frankfurt Galaxy.
Got that, yeah.
Is it Cologne Centurions?
The Centurions, sure.
You had the Rainfire. You had that. Amsterdam Admirals, Berlin Thunder.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I did pretty well. I was happy with that.
Yeah.
I forget how many teams there were. I need to look up which team Delhomme played for, because he played it was the Amsterdam Admirals for 1 year and then the Frankfurt Galaxy, according to Wiki. So, NFL Europe legend Jake Delhomme, a mainstay on this program. Looking at what else is happening. See, we have boots on the ground in the state of North Carolina. This is a massive, massive weekend here locally. You got the Canes tonight. Do we know who's sounding the siren that they do pregame? They had NC State's football coach, which led to a lot of Canes and NC State fans thinking this was a bad sign, considering Dave Doran's never won anything at NC State, and then the Canes lose that game. Would love to know who's sounding the siren for Carolina
Eric
tonight.
Cole.
Oh my gosh, Eric Cole, who scored the tying goal in the Molson Miracle game against Montreal.
Chad
That's
LaRose.
great. No notes. No notes. Chad LaRose is great. Did we have a third period siren sound or two, or just those two?
That's all I see for now.
Pretty strong. Eric Cole is an excellent choice. No notes. That's fantastic. But then you also have the greatest weekend in racing that starts tomorrow. You have the Indy 500 first, and then the Coca-Cola 600, or as a mutual friend of ours calls it, the 600 in Charlotte. Going to be emotional after the passing of Kyle Busch, for sure. Moving this thing along. Several basketball prospects must decide if they stay or they go. We'll tell you which ones you should be keeping an eye on next.
This is Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports presents Josh Graham.
Glad to have you on the Josh Graham Show this Saturday afternoon. Peeking ahead on the calendar, you might not have noticed, but in the next few days, basketball players have a deadline to remove their names from the NBA draft should they want to return to college basketball. You have the players that have declared for the draft, that have an opportunity to return after receiving feedback at the combine. There are still more names than you might think that haven't made that decision quite yet. And there are 3 crucial NBA decisions that must be made no later than next Wednesday. Here are the 3 that you should be keeping a close eye on. Number 1, in a stunning development, Arizona star forward Koa Pete could return to campus. All throughout the season, he was viewed as a lottery pick. But since the Wildcats were blown out in the Final Four against Michigan, we've seen his stock drop substantially. Many don't think he's going to be taken in the top 20. The Field of 68's Jeff Goodman. Nobody follows that sport, college basketball, as closely as Jeff does, and his team, Rob Doster and company, Randolph Childress, Terrence Oglesby. We can go on. Jeff asked 10 NBA execs anonymously what they thought Koa Pete should do. 8 of them said, return to college basketball for another year. And returning to Tucson should be appealing. Arizona was a wagon, as the kids say, last season. And they landed North Carolina's starting point guard and Derek Dixon. They're bringing back two key pieces to their puzzle, Karchenkov and Kribas. With next year's draft class being much lighter than this year, and a year from now, Pete would be coming off his sophomore season, he'd still be probably selected higher a year from now than he would be this year, and he's probably going to make more from Arizona this coming season than he would have been paid in his rookie contract being taken outside the top 20. So it makes sense for Koa Pete to return to school, even though it's surprising considering how his stock was framed all throughout the regular season. Iowa State star Milan Momcilovic still hasn't taken his name out of the draft. This is stunning that NBA scouts aren't high on him. Just don't understand it. Iowa State was close to being a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. He is the leading scorer on that Iowa State team. He's 6'9", over 6'9", 220 pounds, led the nation in three-point shooting percentage. 48% from three. You want to talk about what does well in the NBA? How about guys at 6'9", 220 who can hit nearly 50% of their threes? And it's not like it was low usage or low volume. He had the fourth most made threes in all of college basketball this past year. Will Dalton, have you watched Zoolander before? It's about to be the 25-year anniversary.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen that.
Where Derek Zoolander or Ben Stiller is a male model.
Yeah.
Well, Will Ferrell's he's the guy who has he's like the mogul who has the hair and all. Mugatu. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. That's how I feel with Milan Momcilovic not being seen as a first-round draft pick, not being seen as a top NBA. It just doesn't make sense. He's expected to return to college, but where is the bigger question? There have been some whispers about Duke that are mostly just social media rumors. He put his name in the portal with the do not contact tag. The popular sentiment is that Louisville and Kentucky are going to be locked into a bidding war to land Milan Momcilovic. And if Louisville wins that bidding war, it will have landed not one, not two, not three, but 4 top 50 transfers in this year's portal cycle, including 2 of the 3 best guys available. Momcilovic and Flory Badunga right there alongside Wake Forest transfer Juke Harris that's going to Tennessee. Badunga from Kansas. He, by the way, still hasn't announced he's coming back, but everybody believes that he's going to, kind of like with Momcilovic. It's kind of shocking that Momcilovic, it seems, is going to be returning to college basketball, but still a name worth watching. This is the name you should be following most on the NBA decision front. Santa Clara transfer Allen Graves has become the hottest name in terms of stock rising. The basketball season ends. He's a freshman at 6'9" at Santa Clara, averaging double-digit for Herb Sendek's team. They made the NCAA tournament. Enters the portal, but also declares for the draft, wanting to get some feedback. And then he hits a home run in the combine. He is an analytics darling. He knocked out the combine. His measurables are great. He's coming off a freshman season. It looks like he's going to be a first-round draft pick. Probably not going to be taken in the top 20, but it looks like he's going to be a first-round draft pick. So scouts are split whether or not he's going to follow through on what might be a first-round promise or decide to go to college and transfer from Santa Clara to one of the bigger dogs in college hoops and get a giant payday and then maybe even elevate your stock more a la Koa Pete following your sophomore campaign or following your sophomore campaign before declaring. Graves said at the combine, Will Dalton, only 2 teams have contacted him, Duke and LSU. Schools with deep pockets. Will Wade and LSU, who hasn't made any headlines at all that are controversial in the last couple weeks with his roster building, and the Duke Blue Devils that are just there lingering. Nobody knows how much Duke spends, but Duke just gets the best high school players all the time and got one of the best transfers in John Blackwell, probably the best transfer guard. We mentioned the best transfer forwards, the best transfer guard, John Blackwell announcing officially. He's taken his name out of the NBA draft, going to go to Duke next year. So Allen Graves, the Santa Clara transfer, Iowa State star Milan Momcilovic, and Arizona's star Koa Pete. Those are the 3 to watch for what decisions they make over the next few days when you're having to decide, should I stay or should I go? This segment is sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance. They protect small businesses with affordable coverage options. Get a quote today at progressivecommercial.com. We are asking what the best story in sports is right now because I'm coming to the table nominating the Tampa Bay Rays. them having the best record in the American League by 5 games after being displaced to a AAA ballpark last year and having the 24th highest payroll in the sport, that's the best story in sports as far as I can see it. I don't know what else is better than that. But if you come up with something, 310-840-4910, we'd love to hear it. Maybe it's the Carolina Hurricanes, Josh Jacobs, who's taking your calls at 310-840-4910. Maybe it is You got it out of your system, Josh? You good? Okay. For good measure. Just making sure. Because got some things I want to say about this team. Just want to make sure we got the goal horn and all that out of the system. Making sure of it. We got bets to hand out in about 10 minutes. The NHL's Eastern Conference Finals are a reminder that Rod Brind'Amour, the Hurricanes coach, he might mean more to the Hurricanes than any single sports figure means to any other franchise. This stat is staggering. The Hurricanes have 96 all-time playoff wins since moving from Hartford to Raleigh, North Carolina in 1997. 96 all-time playoff wins. Rod Brind'Amour has either been the head coach or a player for 94 of the 96. He was the captain for the Stanley Cup champion Carolina Hurricanes 20 years ago, the head coach for a team that missed the playoffs 9 consecutive years prior to him being hired, and since him being hired, has made the playoffs and won at least one series in 8 consecutive postseasons. However, that history is being brought up in a negative light after Game 1 in Montreal. Dating back to Brind'Amour as the Canes captain in 2009, Carolina is 1-17 in its last 5 conference finals appearances. That's crazy too. Don't know which of those two are craziest stats. 1-17 in the last 5 conference finals appearances, 2009, 2019, 2023, 2025, and now here in 2026. Those Stanley Cup appearances because they lost all those series. Speaking of their opponent in the Eastern Finals, the Montreal Canadiens, Brind'Amour has a lot of history with them as well. Go back to 2002. The Miracle at Molson is what it was called. Carolina was in a must-win game. They were down 2-1 in the series in Montreal and trailing in the game on the road 3-0 in the third period. That game was as good as over against Jose Theodore and company. Carolina scored 3 goals in regulation to tie it, won the game in overtime. Rod Brind'Amour was on the ice for the equalizer. Rod Brind'Amour was on the ice for the game-winning goal. 2006, Carolina faced Montreal in the first round. Carolina lost the first 2 games of that series on home ice. Then won 4 straight games with Brind'Amour assisting on the OT winner in Game 6, the clincher. The Canes went to the Stanley Cup Final both the postseasons that they faced and beat the Montreal Canadiens. We'll see if they can make it a third time. This is the type of stuff that you talk about statue material. If you're going to put a statue in front of the building they call the Lenny in Raleigh, Lenovo Center, Rod Brind'Amour has the bona fides to already justify that, both as a player, his achievements, but also as a coach. Eastern Conference Finals, Game 2 is later tonight. There are going to be so many nerves in that building. See, being from the state of North Carolina and still living in the state of North Carolina, I actually grew up outside of Raleigh. This is why I'm a lifelong Carolina Hurricanes fan, a diehard Carolina Hurricanes fan. They share a building with the NC State basketball program, and that's a program that fans generally are just waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's one of those fan bases where, kind of like the Jets in a sense, you're just wondering when things are going to go wrong. And a lot of it's due to, well, who else is in your neighborhood? You got Duke and North Carolina less than an hour from your campus, less than 45 minutes in one case. And that makes things really tough for NC State basketball. So when NC State plays Duke in that building in Raleigh, or plays North Carolina, it's jam-packed. And the tension you feel, the butt clenching, if you will, is just palpable. And I can imagine that's exactly what the building is going to feel like tonight. It's going to feel like an NC State basketball game facing Duke or North Carolina when the Hurricanes host Montreal, given that 1-17 mark dating back to 2009 and losing game one and not wanting to fall behind 2-0 in the series. The nerves, the anxiety, it's going to be a real thing when Carolina drops the puck tonight in game 2. We have bets to hand out. Yes, we do. Both on the hockey front and on the basketball front. Our bets have been doing really well of late. We called the segment Graham's Gambling, and those bets, well, actually, are on the way. Let's get to Wes in Idaho first, though, because we are asking the question, what is the best story in sports? I nominated the Tampa Bay Rays. Wes has another nomination. Wes, good to have you with us. I was about to get to some bets. I was going to be firing things off. I got distracted and then forgot to get to you, but I'm glad we have you now. Wes, what's your nomination?
Well, before I say, you got a great show. And my Seattle Seahawks are my nomination. Well, think about it. They took on all the talking heads' favorite, the Los Angeles Rams, and they beat them 2 out of 3. And it was great games, all 3 of them. But the Seahawks were dominant. And there's every indication that the Seahawks are going to be just as good this year. And even though they only had 4 draft picks, the 4 draft picks they got were studs. I look for the Seahawks to repeat.
Oh, wow.
What do you think?
Fire. I like your optimism, Wes, and I appreciate the call and the kind words as well. It's good to hear from you. But the concern I have is you are going to have a first-place schedule. You're in a brutal, difficult division where everybody else feels like they got better. San Francisco just getting healthier. The LA Rams obviously have the MVP quarterback and, added McDuffie from the Chiefs. We'll see. Seattle, meanwhile, you had to make business decisions. You were able to re-up with Jackson Smith and Jigba and re-sign some of the guys that are key on your team, but you let Kenneth Walker walk. That's difficult. You're right about the draft picks you got, but they're just not really high draft picks because of the fact that you won the Super Bowl. And that's the secret sauce of the NFL. They're very good at elevating teams that struggle and pushing down teams that do very well. I think it's a really difficult schedule for Seattle. It's a really difficult division that they're in, and they had to make some business decisions on their roster with a lot of guys who were up. If they repeat, I'll be right there with you and saying that would be the best story in sports if they're able to pull off something like that. But in the NFL season, I think I'm with you. I think right now might be the operative word of, all right, we're not during football season, so I'll go Rays then, but the Seahawks and the fact they won the Super Bowl, the best story of the NFL season. Get into those bets. I got one for hockey. I got one for basketball. Plenty to get to. We might even look at the baseball slate. Don't know if anything's there, but Graham's Gambling is next on The Josh Graham Show.
This Memorial Day, we honor the brave men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice in service to our country. From all of us across this great nation, we remember the fallen and the freedom they secured. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports presents Josh Graham.
The bets have been looking good of late, certainly on the NBA playoffs. Jared McCain over 1.5 made threes last night. That went well, considering OKC's bench went off. He had 26 in the game to steal home court advantage back, or steal what belonged to them in the first place. OKC losing game one on their home court and then winning in San Antonio. Game 4 of that series is tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Let's look at bets for tonight's game. We got a couple to hand out right now in Graham's Gambling.
Sitting back, count money all day, you know. It's time for Graham's Gambling. Let's make some money.
And let's start with Knicks-Cavaliers. Got the Knicks plus 2.5. Knicks money line at plus 120. I really do think the Knicks rest advantage is a real deal here. This is the fourth playoff game in the third different city for the Cavaliers this week. In the regular season, you'd look at that and say it's normal. But what do we know about NBA players in the regular season now? You don't take it all that seriously. You find places to get your rest and load manage, all of that. We're in the third round of the playoffs. The Cavaliers have played back-to-back 7-game series. The Knicks, they got 9 days off prior to this series starting earlier this week. It is much more damaging to Cleveland that there are no built-in travel days in this series than it bothers the Knicks. And I think the Knicks are just more trustworthy at this stage of the game, have more players that you trust to come up big in a playoff game. And the fact that you get a money line with them to a money line with plus money for the Knicks and get a couple of points as well, that's just too much to pass up. So we're on the Knicks tonight. Can't pull the trigger on Carolina to win, Will. Can't do it. Canes-Canadiens. So I'm going to stay away from a side, and I'm instead minus 120 courtesy of our friends at DraftKings, looking at the Canadiens team total under 2.5 goals. Carolina had the longest layoff that we've seen in the NHL since 1919. 12 days they were off. 12! Insanity! And 14 minutes into the hockey game, it showed Carolina was down 4-1 to Montreal. Remember, prior to that game, not only had Carolina not lost in these playoffs, 8-0, they hadn't allowed more than 2 goals in a playoff game. After that initial 15 minutes, when Carolina's down 4-1, Carolina only allowed 1 more goal the rest of the way. Montreal tacked on an empty netter at the end. So they got back to their game. I'm going to trust that the pride comes on the defensive side of the ice. If Montreal's going to steal it tonight, it's going to be because Dobesh is on his head and winning this game 2-0, 2-1, something of that sort. It's not going to be because Montreal is out there scoring at will off Freddie Anderson. I think Anderson bounces back. I think Carolina's defense bounces back. I think the Canadiens are held under 2.5 goals. There's nothing, Will, that I like in baseball. There's nothing that I'm willing to bet. I would bet the Rays to beat the Yankees today, but that got rained out. I would bet on my Orioles, but the Orioles, that got rained out too. So, just going to have to pass on baseball today. How do you feel about Knicks plus 2.5 and the Canadiens team total under 2.5 goals?
I like the Knicks pick. I like that one.
Hockey.
I think this might be a game, the one game that Cleveland gets, because I have Knicks in 5. Yeah.
I thought you just said you liked the Knicks pick.
I do, to cover that. Did you say plus 2.5?
It's only 2.5 points. You like the Cavaliers to win by 1 or 2?
I do. I think it's going to be a tight game.
You're a strange bird. You're a strange bird. You like
I do.
You like Cleveland to win,
Cleveland
but
wins.
you like the Knicks pick. That's the weirdest thing for anyone to say.
I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to go down to the wire.
That's
I
such a
do.
weird thing for anybody to say. I love that pick. Cleveland wins, though. 2.5 point spread in basketball.
Well, they cover
it's
it.
It's a tie game, and they hit a 3 at the buzzer. You lose.
Well, that's just tough. You got to live life on the edge, you know?
Well, don't say you love the pick, then, if you like Cleveland to win.
I do.
It's one or the other. It can't be both. It really can't. This isn't football.
It's going to be a tight game.
Oh, my God. Unbelievable you are. That's Ben Graham's Gambling. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel and the podcast feed. Search Westwood One Sports Night, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. You can find some of the work Linnell Willingham and I do throughout the week at night on 300 markets across the country. On YouTube, Westwood One Sports Night. It's where you can watch the show in addition to listening to it. So however and wherever you listen or watch, we greatly appreciate that. Looking at what else is going on in sports, Giants quarterback Jackson Dart introduced the President of the United States at an event last night. That's not really the headline related to this event that I'm most interested in touching on, believe it or not. You can have your thoughts on that however you want to feel about it. I'm more interested in what the president then announced on the stage. Wells Crowther's family has been awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I believe I have that right. It's the highest civilian honor you can win. The only honor higher than that is the military honor, the Presidential Medal of Honor. The Presidential Medal of Freedom's going to Wells Crowther's family. If you don't know who Wells Crowther is, he's best known as the man with the red bandana. I think I have the book somewhere here. For those watching on YouTube, find this real quick. Yeah, have it right here. We're on X. The Red Bandana, A Life, a Choice, a Legacy. The author, Tom Rinaldi. Tom Rinaldi has made more grown men cry than anybody on planet Earth. All the features that he did, College Game Day on ESPN, making dudes cry on a Saturday, starting their day off that way. And now doing so at Fox, where he's become just this tremendous sideline reporter, asks such pointed questions. It almost seems like he's got that little, like the world's smallest piano that's just going to get you all the time. And I remember I was talking to Tom right after this book came out, and I got it. And I said, well, Tom, I don't know if I've seen any of your other books. And Tom laughs and says, well, you wouldn't have, because this is the only book I've ever written. Tom Rinaldi's done hundreds and hundreds of stories over the years. But the one story that's resonated the most, he told me, is the Red Bandana. It was a feature he did in the late 2000s on a former Boston College lacrosse captain that forewent a career as a firefighter. That was his dream, to be a firefighter. He forewent that to work in finance. 25 years ago, this September 11th, he chose, when the tower he was in was struck by a plane, rather than taking the fire escape and helping just a couple people to safety and then leaving and having his life spared, and he probably would still be with us today, he went back to save more than a dozen people that we know to safety in that tower rather than saving himself. And one of the trips he went back to do so, the tower collapsed and he tragically passed away. The reason we know that it was Wells that did this is because when he played at Boston College lacrosse, when he was at the firehouse or wherever he was, there was always one thing he had with him, the red bandana. And there were so many witnesses, people whose lives were spared, getting to the exit getting to the fire escape, getting out of that tower, that decided there was this man who was directing people to safety, carrying, in some cases, people to safety. And the one discernible thing that they all said is he was wearing a red bandana. And they found out it was Wells Crowther. So, shout out to Boston College, and shout out to Wells Crowther. And congratulations to him and his family being awarded the highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, soon to be the 25-year anniversary of 9/11. There was a headline in the NFL that you might have missed this week. That is bad, bad news for football fans. And that headline is next on the Josh Graham Show.
The Thunder have taken back home court. Will they take a commanding 3-1 lead? We'll find out. Game 4 is tomorrow night. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will be in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports presents Josh Graham.
A question we're asking on the Josh Graham Show. When it comes to the NFL's international policy, how far can they go before you say too far? Where is the line on what's too far for the NFL's pursuits internationally? You might have missed it this week, but the NFL made some changes to its international rules that are noteworthy and in one case really, really bad for football fans. The first change, not that much of a big deal and expected. They said they're going to add a couple more international games moving forward. Okay, fine. But then it was the second piece that really there should have been more of an uproar against. Because fans often don't see a headline and immediately think, oh, this is going to affect my team, my community, my local businesses. But that's how you should look at these things, especially if you root for teams that are big brands within the sport. The headline was, NFL teams don't have the ability to protect any of their home games from international dates. Meaning, the NFL can take whatever games they want and turn them into international games. And that isn't good. There should be a couple games that teams get per year. They can tell the league, do not, under any circumstances, take this home game from us. Teams should be able to do that. Think about certain rivalries. How wrong it would feel if Bears, Packers didn't happen at Lambeau Field one year. Or if the Steelers don't visit Baltimore, or vice versa. Think about NFC East rivalries. Protections are much more necessary when you think about the cross-conference games. A good example of this would be Chiefs at Seahawks. That's a marquee game. You wouldn't be shocked if they're going to sell that as being a spotlight game in an international place. Let's send that game to Dublin. But then you dig into the details. Most cross-conference matchups don't happen but every 4 years. You don't play a team from the other conference on rotation, but every 4 years. And then, if you scope that out, you rotate home sites. That means you don't see certain matchups happen at a certain stadium, certain home site, but every 8 years. Chiefs Seahawks, the last time these teams met, 2022. The last time the Chiefs visited Seattle was Patrick Mahomes' first season starting for Kansas City in 2018. The next time the Chiefs would be slated to play in Seattle again, 2034. Just think about that for a second. If a team could go 16 years without having played in an NFL stadium, that's not good for the league. especially for your marquee players, marquee brands. That's not what you want. And there are more than enough games to avoid this. And teams should be able to highlight certain games and say, hey, this game means a lot to us this year. Please don't make it an international day. Especially when you expand to 18 games and there are more and more games that you could send over there. The message really that the NFL has sent, it's not a good one. The message is some form of this. We have captured the American audience in a way no other form of entertainment has. It's the last monolith of American culture, something we all agree upon is king, the NFL, and no other sport is close. Thus, we've taken the American sports fan for granted. We're wanting to attract audiences that don't care about us yet, and we're making moves to try to attract them at the expense of the audience we know we already have and can take for granted. They do this whether it's a predominantly Spanish halftime show, which the league said was to reach more international audiences, or sending games overseas that are marquee, like Rams 49ers, for example, in week 1 to Australia. That's what we are seeing. And this could be a mistake. It is the same mistake. Been thinking a lot about NASCAR this week because I'm boots on the ground in the state of North Carolina. The Coke 600 is on Sunday, and we lost Kyle Busch this week. And Kyle Busch was the villain in NASCAR 20 years ago at the time the sport was at its peak. Like, if you look at the ratings for NASCAR races in the 2000s, it was nuts with Dale Jr. and Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart, all these stars. And NASCAR decided, we need to grow our sport. And the way we're going to do that is abandoning traditional tracks in the South for untraditional markets and abandoning some weekends that race fans in the South counted on for decades to be certain weekends, all to go other places. And then the following decade came, last decade, and NASCAR ratings, they nosedived. What NASCAR figured out is Southern fans realized NASCAR doesn't really care so much for them or took them for granted, and they decided to do something else. And the ratings suffered. So the question is, what ultimately could the NFL do to have that reaction from the football fan base in America? This international policy, for the record, it's not the breaking point, but there could be one eventually. If you have an overseas Super Bowl, the American shining event, if you send that overseas, maybe it's that. Congrats to Nashville, by the way, for getting the 2030 Super Bowl. Maybe it's sending a team full-time overseas. We've heard that be a discussion point. That would be ridiculous. And maybe that's the thing that pushes it over the line where fans say, I don't know if you care that I like your sport or watch your sport. And I don't feel represented, and you've veered so far off that it's not something I want to support or give my money to anymore. I don't think we're there, but that doesn't mean there isn't a line you could hit. 310-840-4910 if you want in. It is the Josh Graham Show. Josh Jacobs is taking your calls. That's Will Dalton over there. We got unusual questions that we're going to play a day early today, next hour, which is a lot of fun. Don't know if Josh Jacobs has ever played unusual questions with Will Dalton and I. It's a good time. Let's go to Paul, who's in Rhode Island. Paul, where are you? How far could be too far for the NFL?
Well, here's the deal. I think that you're jipping. You remember that word in the 80s, that you're jipping the fans by going 2 months overseas. Here's the deal. I'd rather park $60 for parking, $60 for gas, and $60 for hot dogs and beers. All I want the NFL to do, my home teams, is to win the home games. You know why? Because it's such a privilege to walk away from a stadium after being in traffic for an hour and 40 minutes and winning that game. Who cares about the Super Bowl? Who cares about winning the AFC?
Well, it is the most watched TV show in America every single year by a long shot. So I think a lot of people care about the Super Bowl.
Oh, when you leave your house at 11:30 in the morning and you advertise alcohol, like Paul Stanley, the lead singer from Kiss, used to say, alcohol at 6:30 in the morning, and radio talk show host you're going to draft the weak people. But it's okay. You're not drafting me because you know what? I will go there and pick and handpick the games I want to see, whether it's the NBA, whether it's the NFL, whatever.
But that's the thing I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. They haven't done the Super Bowl. What I'm saying is they are taking home games away. There are games they're saying to the New England Patriots, if there's a big game that you have this year, you can't protect it. You can't say that to the league, we can't make that an international date anymore. And I disagree with that. I'm with you. Protect the home games.
Just win the home games, man.
Okay.
Because do it for the fans.
I got you. I'm in agreement with you. I appreciate the call, by the way. And
I have nothing against international play because they love the game.
Okay. Appreciate the call, Paul. Like the perspective. I do like him, the pronunciation of alcohol there. My mom is as Southern as it gets, man. Grew up in Youngsville, North Carolina. I guess she grew up in Franklinton, North Carolina. You know how she says alcohol? Alcohol. There's a town 20 minutes from Youngsville, North Carolina, my hometown, called Henderson, North Carolina. Spelled just like that. Henderson. You want to know how the people in Henderson pronounce it? Henderson. 2 syllables. Henderson. Appreciate the call there. 310-840-4910 if you want in on the program. Memorial Day, Will Dalton, it is low-key a terrific sports weekend. It doesn't get talked about. I'm not saying it belongs in the top sports weekends of the year, but it is a terrific sports weekend. In pro sports, you have the conference finals in hockey and in basketball. Baseball games are fun. Generally, they put good matchups on Memorial Day weekend. It's also the greatest weekend on the racing calendar. The Indy 500, the Coke 600 in Charlotte. Going to be extra emotional because of the passing of Kyle Busch. But not to be overlooked, Will, it's going to be a terrific weekend for college sports, too. College baseball conference tournaments are wrapping up. You have the selection show for college baseball on Monday. We'll learn what all the regionals are going to be that start on Friday of next week. And also you have the Final Four for lacrosse. I was just texting with my buddy Anish Shroff, who is calling the games on ESPN and ESPN2. We have finals on the men's Final Four today. Our championship matchup set in Charlottesville. It's going to be Notre Dame, who beat Syracuse today, facing Princeton. Princeton beating the Duke Blue Devils. And on the women's front, tomorrow, North Carolina Northwestern, that's a battle of titans going head-to-head for the women's lacrosse national championship. So, Will, it's a pretty good Memorial Day weekend. How do you plan to be spending it?
Well, right now I've got the ACC baseball tournament on.
Oh,
Carolina taking on Pitt in downtown
Carolina's
Charlotte.
Good, man.
They're up 12-4 right now. Pitt, though, they're a 14 seed, and they snuck into the semifinals, though. They beat Florida State
So does that
yesterday.
mean it's Carolina and Georgia Tech tomorrow if Carolina holds on?
They're in the bottom of the 6th right now, but it looks pretty good.
If Carolina holds on to the 8-run lead, it's Carolina, Georgia Tech? Okay. So that's how you plan to spend your weekend, just watching college baseball?
I mean, I'm going to be watching the NBA playoffs, too. And hopefully...
I heard you on with Linnell Willingham this morning. I was surprised by that.
I'm going to be on with him again in the morning. I will not be on this program tomorrow. And I
heard you're on every other show but mine tomorrow. That's what I was told. You're on every other show but mine tomorrow.
Yeah, Mike Wickett.
What the hell is up with that,
game.
Will? What are you trying to say?
Ask the bosses. They needed my services, and they didn't want to kill me by.
Well, you know what, Will? It's fine.
4 shows in a row.
It's fine. I'm not going to miss you. I have a redhead in Ben Strober who's going to be with me tomorrow. No, we got 2 redheads. You're going to be so jealous. We're going to have so much fun. Me and Ben. That's what we're going to do. You enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. I'm going to grill some burgers right after the show ends and hopefully watch a Carolina Hurricanes win. Even though the Knicks are up 2-0 in the Eastern Finals, there should be real urgency for them tonight as well. That, and you tell us if there is a line the NFL can cross internationally, 310-840-4910. That and a pick for the game next on the Josh Graham Show.
This is Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will be in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports presents Josh Graham.
Woo-hoo-hoo! It is the Josh Graham Show. Unusual questions, 20 minutes from now. Your chance, essentially, to ask us anything. It's the most fun thing we do every weekend. Make sure you're around for that and save the phone number at 310-840-4910 if you want in. Let's look at the main event tonight. It's Knicks-Cavaliers, game number.
Go New York, go New York, go! Go New York, go New York, go! Say go New York, go New York, go! Go New York.
Heard a sound in my ear and I got scared. I thought it was going to be the Carolina Hurricanes horn cutting me off because Josh Jacobs has been giving carte blanche. Anytime I'm obnoxious talking about my favorite hockey team, he could just interject at any point. So I got alarmed. You're right. Let's get back on task. Back to basketball. There should be urgency, not just for the Cavaliers who are trailing 2-0 in the series, but also for the New York Knicks as well. It does apply to New York. The Knicks' goal at this point needs to be to win the whole damn thing. Not just to get back to the finals for the first time since '99. That'd be great. That'd be an achievement. You'd be happy with that even if it doesn't work out well in the finals. But if your goal is to win and to take the Larry O'Brien and end the 53-year drought, you need this to be a quick Eastern Conference Finals. It needs to be a 4 or 5 game series. You have your best player as a smaller guard in Jalen Brunson. Generally, smaller guards tend to get worn down as the playoffs go on, but hasn't really happened to the Knicks because New York has been able to get a lot of rest in between series. Look at the other side of the bracket. If you watch the Spurs face the Thunder, obviously both those teams are better than the Knicks are. But they are beating the hell out of each other. Last night, the series officially turned into a boxing match. This is going to be a 7-round series, so to speak. 7-round title fight between these two titans. 53 fouls in 48 minutes. And 66 free throws attempted. And a skirmish that happened. And injuries left and right. Injuries already a big part of the series. Jalen Williams going down in Game 2. De'Aaron Fox returned in Game 3, but then he's hobbling off in the second half. And Dylan Harper hasn't looked the same since his injury in Game 2. He did play last night, but didn't really look himself. And we're only 3 games into this series. So we're about halfway through. If New York can get through the Cavs in 4 or 5 games while the Thunder and the Spurs are going to war with each other in 6 or 7, that would give them a shot at the first title in 53 years. That would give them a shot because, knock on wood, the Knicks don't have any injuries to speak of. So that's why there should be urgency tonight, more urgency than you think for the New York Knicks. As for the Cavaliers, they obviously need to win tonight. It doesn't take Sherlock Holmes to know or to realize, hey, there hasn't been a team in NBA history to fall behind 3-0 and win a best-of-7 series. They have the opportunity to protect home court. It's not a series, after all, until a team wins on the road. But if we're being honest about it, Cleveland, they really needed to steal game 1. When you're the lesser seed, you have to win in order to win the series, a game on the road at some point. And that was the one to get. New York off the long layoff and looking rusty right out of the gate. You're not going to get a better shot at winning inside Madison Square Garden than being up 22 points in the fourth quarter. And they blew it. And that likely lingered in the Game 2 loss. So who wins the basketball game tonight? Josh Jacobs. Fire it up again, because I'm with the New York Knicks. Will Dalton, why don't we make more songs like this? I love cheesy 90s anthems.
I mean, I guess the Hurricanes kind of have one.
They did 20 years ago. They don't have it anymore.
Your Orioles used to have something.
Right? Every team used to have cheesy songs such as that, but they don't do it anymore.
Like Meet the Mets.
Josh
whatever
Jacobs.
That was. See,
I mean, you want to do the Super Bowl shuffle in 2026. Why? The same reason there aren't great comedies nowadays, because you have everybody's so self-aware. Oh, man, people are going to make fun of me on social media, and it's going to be picked apart, and then, oh, man, we don't want to be mocked. We don't want to do anything that's cheesy. We don't want to do something that's funny. We don't want to do something that's just fun. No. So that's why we don't get them anymore, and it's a shame, because I love songs like that. Great.
In 1985, the Lakers had Celtics busters after they beat the Boston Red Sox Celtics for the first time ever in an NBA Finals. Ray Parker Jr. actually sang it himself. It wasn't some parody artist. It was the guy who was the Ghostbusters singer singing Celtics Busters. It was awesome.
Celtics Busters, and it's great. But you want to do that today because, again, people are just so self-aware. That's my theory on it anyway. But I like the Knicks to win tonight because, one, I think they're the better basketball team. I think they're the better constructed team. I trust more guys on their team at this stage of the playoffs than I do the Cavs. But I also do think rest is such a big deal in this series. It's a significant deal that there will be no extra travel days in the series. Generally what happens is it's 2 days in between games. But then after the first 2 games and you travel to the other site, it's 3 days. You get an extra day to account for travel. Not in this series. And they're playing tonight. And for the Cavaliers, in the regular season, it might be okay when you have load management and such to play 4 games in a week in 3 different cities. That's what the Cavaliers are doing tonight. Game 7 in Detroit on Sunday. In New York for games 1 and 2. Tuesday and Thursday, and now on Saturday, you're back at home and you're playing again. Now, it's good to be at home, but I think the travel's a problem. Meanwhile, the Knicks, this is your 3rd game in 2 weeks? Going to be a lot more rested. So, give me the New York Knicks to go up 3-0 in this series. A note passed along, "Here we go," the Pittsburgh Steelers anthem. We talked about that when Brooke Pryor joined us last week. I don't know if they swear more by "Here We Go" or "Renegade" by the Beastie Boys. But it's both of those songs. And the analogy she made, which I think is a good one, Will, is that "Renegade" and "Here We Go" for the Steelers is kind of like for a college when you might have your fight song and your alma mater be 2 different things. Like the alma mater is a different thing that everybody knows than your fight song, and that might be what the Steelers have there in concert. This segment is sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance. They protect small businesses with affordable coverage options. Get a quote today at progressivecommercial.com. To the Stanley Cup playoffs we go. The NHL has separated itself as having the most unpredictable I was saying is the NHL has separated itself as having the most unpredictable postseason in professional sports. And I think that's what we're seeing in the conference final so far. I'm scared to even talk about the Hurricanes, so I'll just wait before we get there. Look no further than the Colorado Avalanche. Going into the playoffs, Colorado was viewed as the most dominant force in hockey. President's Trophy winner, best record in the sport, backed it up by starting the postseason 8-1, cruising to the conference finals. Star power like Nate McKinnon and Marty Necas. But the Avs have dropped both their home games to start the Western Conference Final, including a blown third period lead in Game 2 last night. They're trailing John Tortorella's Golden Knights 2-0 going back to Vegas. Colorado right now looks like a team really missing its star defenseman, the right-handed shot Cole Makar, who's missed the first 2 games. And you know an injury is bad in hockey if you got players missing playoff games. You know it's bad if hockey players are choosing to miss playoff games. That brings us to, yes, the Carolina Hurricanes. Eastern Finals. The Canes, they have made... It's good. The Canes have made 8 straight playoff appearances, Like, you want to talk about the most accomplished team in these playoffs since the Florida Panthers are in it this year? It's Carolina. 8 straight playoff appearances, 8 straight years with at least one series win. This is the 4th conference finals appearance during that run. They have the best record in the East in the regular season. And during the playoffs, they swept the first 2 series 8-0. They won the first 2 series 8-0. We haven't seen a team do that in this format the playoffs has had that's been around for 40 years. We haven't seen a team start 8-0 in the playoffs altogether since the 1985 Edmonton Oilers that had 7 Hall of Famers on it, including the best player in the history of the sport in his prime, Wayne Gretzky. So, of course, with Wayne Gretzky in the building, a part of the TNT crew, Carolina finds itself down 4-1, 15 minutes into Game 1 against Montreal the other night. Montreal ended up winning the game 6-2. And going back to the unpredictability of these playoffs, the hockey playoffs, this is par for the course. Shame on any of us for thinking that we were just going to see automatically a Colorado-Carolina collision course in the Stanley Cup final. Both teams now, as we mentioned, combined 0-3 to start the conference final, all losing home games. The last time we saw in that sport, think about other sports. If you're the top seed in the NFL playoffs, you get a bye, gives you a great advantage. Almost every year, you see at least one of the top seeds get there. And regularly, you'll see the top seeds play each other. Saw San Francisco, remember that overtime classic between Kansas City and San Francisco? Hardman had the touchdown to win it in Vegas. Well, they were both the top seeds just a few years ago. The NBA, how often does it happen? It's the top seed facing the top seed. In the NHL, we haven't seen the 2 top seeds meet each other in the Stanley Cup Finals in 25 years. A quarter century. 2001 is the last time that it happened. Will it happen this year? Doesn't look like that's the case. But we'll see what the Carolina Hurricanes have for the Canadiens tonight. Yes, Josh Jacobs, you can hit it one more time. Excellent work. The highlights of the weekend each week is when we allow for you, 300 markets across the country, to ask us anything. Usually it's more fun when it's outside the context of sports, but generally it veers into sports. The segment we call Unusual Questions. Our phone number is 310-840-4910 if you want in, 310-840-4910. This is your one opportunity, one segment a week, one shot to capture everything you ever wanted, one moment. You're going to capture it or let it slip. That's next on The Josh Graham Show.
Summer's here, And life is on the move. Graduations, vacations, and more. Wherever you're headed, you can count on us. For the daily sports news and analysis you need to hear, listen on the Westwood One Sports app. Wherever you are this summer, Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will be in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports presents Josh Graham.
Because Josh Jacobs might be new to this segment on the Josh Graham Show, need to spell out the origin a little bit. About 5 years ago, Roy Williams was about to wrap up his tenure at North Carolina. They lost a basketball game that they scheduled last minute, and it was a game they didn't really need to schedule. So I asked some form of a question. Given this didn't turn out well, do you regret scheduling the game? Like, was it a mistake to schedule the game? Roy took that as me asking, if you knew you were going to lose, would you have scheduled? And it was on Zoom, and it was weird, so you had to mute yourself. There's no chance to really clarify. So Roy got mad, and he left the press conference. He said some version, I would have scheduled the damn Lakers if I knew we were going to win. And then a few days later, after I'm getting buried on national outlets, I think ESPN had the clip on all of their shows and whatnot. Was this a good question? And blah, blah, blah. North Carolina loses a game to Syracuse. We're on Zoom in the postgame again. I'm not wanting to ask a question. I want to get out of the way. I don't want to be a distraction. But at the end of the game, Carolina lost the game. But Roy at the end of the presser says, is Josh in here? And I was. And he goes, there are people that think I'm mad at Josh. I'm not mad at Josh. I thought it was an unusual question, and that's okay. Which led to the genesis of this segment that Will Dalton still hasn't gotten any imaging for. How long have we been asking for imaging from you? For you to do your job? Hashtag Bill Belichick, do your job. You're a Carolina football fan.
Wait.
Hashtag do your job, Bill Belichick.
It's probably been about 5 weeks now.
A month and a half.
But to be
Pretty close to
no. But to be fair, I didn't know we were doing this segment today because we usually do this on Sunday. So.
Oh yeah? When were we going to do it tomorrow, Will?
I would have had it. Oh, you mean when would we have done the 7th? Because I'm not.
Me and Ben
be
Strober hanging out tomorrow because you decided to do every other show
Well,
but mine tomorrow.
maybe
I get it. It's
maybe
okay. Like I said, it's okay. Thought it was an unusual question. 310-840-4910. So anyway, the genesis of the segment is, thank you, Roy Williams, for allowing us the opportunity once a week in 300 markets across the country for people to just ask us things. This is your chance to ask us anything, and it's a lot of fun. It's the highlight of our weekend. Like, let's go to Jim in Seattle, for example. Jim, what is your unusual question?
Yeah. What condiments do you put on your food that is not normal and others around you think is gross? Like, for example, I love mayonnaise on hot dogs.
Hold 1 second. You were breaking up a little bit. So the clarity is, are you asking what's a food that sounds gross, but that you like it, like a combination on food? Is that why you said mayonnaise on the hot dog?
Well, any condiments that you put on your food that is not normal, that others around you think is gross if you eat around them. Like, for example, I love mayonnaise on hot dogs.
I understand it. That is very strange. Enjoy your Memorial Day with mayo on hot dogs. Appreciate the call, Jim. I have two answers to this. As a kid, and by the way, when you do something as a kid into your teenage years, family members never let you live it down and perceptions never die. I was a picky eater as a kid. And still, when I get together at family functions or whatever, it's like, oh, Josh, are you going to eat that? I'm like, yeah. I was 12 when this happened. I ate mustard sandwiches when I was a kid. Bread, mustard, slap it together, mustard sandwiches. The thing I still do today, though, this is just me. I like hot stuff. Texas Pete is based in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, not Texas. Where I'm based, in Winston-Salem, that's where Texas Pete is based. I like getting original Lay's potato chips, Will, and just putting some Texas Pete on top. Sounds gross, but I do it.
Okay. See, I'm similar as you with my answer to this. I, too, actually ate mustard sandwiches as a kid.
What?
So we might be the two people on earth that's ever done that.
Did we just become best friends again?
I'm serious. At school lunch, I would have mustard sandwiches. Italian bread with mustard with mustard.
Wow. Yes, Josh.
When I watched the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving when they were making the peanuts, the popcorn, and the toast, I thought it was toast with mustard because the butter was so yellow. It was only years later I discovered it was actually butter, not mustard. So I thought for years they were making mustard sandwiches.
Now you know that people do eat mustard sandwiches, Josh, or they did when they were younger. 310-840-4910. If you want in, if you have an unusual question for us. Will Dalton, what is your unusual question that you're bringing to the table?
What's the best cereal?
I hate you so much, man.
What?
We were friends.
What's the best
I was mad
cereal?
at you, and then we were friends again, and then you just asked nonsense such as this. Nonsense.
That's not a nonsense. What's
the
the
laziness,
best cereal?
the lack of preparedness. You don't have the imaging, and now here we are, and you're asking what the best cereal is. The answer
What is it?
obviously Captain Crunch Crunch Berries. That's obviously the answer.
I
Captain
think
Crunch
it's Cinnamon Toast
with
Crunch.
berries, not just berries only. Cinnamon Toast is not going to say that's a bad answer. I like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, CT Crunch, as they said, and this is the end.
To kind of relate back to the last question and weave it in with my question, I'll tell you something weird I used to do with my cereal. I don't eat cereal anymore, but back in the day, when I did, I would get like plain Chex. You know the Chex cereal?
Mm-hmm.
So I would get that, and I would put sugar in there with it. And then I would like have all the sugar at the bottom of the bowl when I got done, and I would just like eat it off the bottom of the bowl.
It's an awful question. 310-840-4910, which means the entire phone lines are going to burn down just because of cereal. Thanks. Let's go to Guy.
That means it's a good question.
Who's in Wyoming. Guy, you're on Westwood One Sports, Westwood One Sports, the Josh Graham Show, and Unusual Questions. What do you have for us, Guy?
Hey, thanks, Josh, for being there on the holiday. We really appreciate you up here in Cheyenne.
Love it.
My question, it's not that weird. I'm a hardcore Avalanche fan, and I just missed how Cale Makar got injured. It's not a weird question. I apologize.
Clinching game against the Golden Knights. He got hurt. It was Game 5 when they clinched, and I think, if memory serves, he got hurt during the game and then returned for overtime, because that was an overtime game when they clinched.
Okay,
we didn't know the severity of it.
Wild?
Yeah. It was the last series against the Wild, and it was in the clinching game, and I think he got hurt, and he came back because hockey players are insane people from the shoulder injury. And I follow a lot of folks. My first job out of college was in Colorado and made a lot of friends who cover the Avalanche, follow the Avalanche. And the way it's just been described to me is like, it's just heartbreaking to see this guy show up for shoot around, show up for practice, and he wants to play. And then you just see the conversation happen with the trainer, and the trainer have to protect him from himself with the shoulder injury. You know it has to be bad for a player of this caliber at this stage to be missing games. Like, you always learn after the fact, oh yeah, this guy's shoulder was displaced in 3 locations and yet was trying to make it happen. But that's your answer. It's a shoulder, and it happened in Game 5.
Hey, thank you, sir. Enjoy the rest of your holiday.
Appreciate you from Wyoming. Love that. Here's my unusual question, Will Dalton. You let me know what you think of it. So a couple days ago, I'm watching Game 1 of the Eastern Finals. I was thinking about taking the night off and going to the Canes game, but had a church function, had a group that meets at my house every week, didn't want to cancel that. And one of the people in the group is a diehard Montreal Canadiens fan, which is weird because they're from Massachusetts. And if you go through the history, Original Six, well, the Bruins did not like the Canadiens, but he apparently loved Carey Price. Carey Price was like his favorite player. So he shows up, he has a Carey Price jersey, and his fiance, congrats to Jim and Abigail, they recently got engaged. They both have Canadiens jerseys, and I've invited them to hang out and watch the first period of the hockey game before I get set for my show that night, Westwood One Sports Night. I'm on during the week, 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. And something I want to ask you was something I was pontificating in my head in the moment and had not considered until that moment. What is the proper decorum when watching a meaningful game for your team with somebody who roots for the other team? Like, I'm in the South. I want to be a good host. They're friends. He loves the Montreal Canadiens. And think about the first, I said, hey, we can watch the first period together. Thinking that's fine. But then the Canes score 30 seconds in, and I'm wanting to go nuts, but I don't because the guy, because he's a Canadiens fan, I don't want him to feel bad and make it be awkward. And then the Canadiens score 4 straight goals in 14 minutes, 13 minutes. And they're down 4-1. So in that moment, do I just get really quiet and sad? Or do I try to engage, say, oh, that was a good play. That was really happy. But inside I'm dying. What is the proper decorum when deciding to watch a meaningful game? And it's not like a party setting where there's a ton of people. It's me and them, and we're watching this game, and he's a Habs fan and I'm a Canes fan.
You're trying to be too nice. That's what you're doing.
Answer the question then. What is the proper decorum?
Well, I mean, the proper decorum is to respond. This is war. I mean, the proper decorum is to respond in however you are feeling in that moment.
Oh, really? So the Hurricanes score 30 seconds in, and I'm supposed to go to my church friend and go double middle fingers in your face. Ah!
Well,
that's what I'm supposed to do.
But that might be a stretch. But you should definitely get fired up. And then on the other end, when they score, yeah, you should be upset. I mean, what did he do? Because they're the one that piled it on all night.
I think he matched me, where he was cool. Nobody was doing anything super over the top. Whoa, that was a nice play. See, wow, can't believe that happened.
I mean, if I'm watching a game with somebody and we're fans of I'm a fan and he's a fan, we're opposites here.
Well, this happened with us a few weeks ago. You came over to my house to watch the Yankees crush the Orioles, and it's the same thing.
I talked crap the entire time. I laughed at you when we loaded the bases and then just knocked them all in.
Key detail. Hot Carlito writes in, trash talking between men is part of watching the game. You missed the part where I said it was him and his fiance. So you're right. If it's just a couple of dudes, then sure. But then there's a lady in the room too.
How else is she gonna learn? How else is she gonna learn how this works? We gotta get her into the culture.
Watch.
She's gotta learn, okay? Just saying. Can't be too nice about these things. It's
unusual questions. 310-840-4910. Let's go to Stuart, who's in Rochester. Stuart, what's your unusual question?
Yes, it's a baseball question. Has there ever been a runner thrown out at home more than once in one inning? You know what I mean by that?
Do you know the answer to this question, or are you just sincerely asking?
I don't Google or anything.
You don't have Google or anything.
No, so maybe I could find out from Google, but I don't have Google, so I don't know the answer.
Why don't you have Google?
Because I just have a flip phone.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, do you have a laptop or a computer?
Gee, this is getting personal.
No, I just revealed that this is a personal show. We have a great time. I'm not judging or anything. I'm fascinated.
No,
I'm fascinated.
No, I know. So,
I'm interested in you.
So the question is, you know how exciting it is when a player gets thrown out at home, right?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it's in the same inning, if this has ever happened, more than once in one inning.
Uh-huh.
That's the question.
I do. Do you ever go to Rochester Red Wings games up there in Rochester?
Well, when I went about 60 years ago.
Okay. 60 years ago is the last time you went to a Rochester Red Wing game?
I'm 75.
Okay.
When I was a kid.
So you went to a Rochester Red Wing game as a kid at 15, but no,
we had
never
a thing
going
called,
back.
We had a little, in school you get a ticket called Knothole Gang, and you'd stamp it. And everyone in school was thrilled you could go to a Red Wing game back then.
Mm-hmm. I can't find an instance in Major League Baseball. These questions were a chance for me to try to use the Google that you do not have to help figure these things out. And apparently there have been instances where players have been caught stealing twice in an inning, but not thrown out at the plate twice, as far as we can see per AI. Doesn't mean it's right, because AI is not always right, but that's
But that would be
what we can find
exciting,
right
wouldn't
now.
it? Especially if your team, say, the 7th game of the World Series and the 9th inning and two runs.
I happen to
World
agree.
Series. Yeah.
I appreciate the call. It's a good question, and
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you calling into the show.
Appreciate
It's
you
good to hear
guys
from
too.
you.
Have a good night.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I tend to agree with Tim Kirkchin, and I don't think it's a popular opinion that the great ESPN columnist has. Are you familiar? I think it was Tim and not Peter Gammons. I might be getting my baseball legendary media folks mixed up. But I believe it was Tim who said that the sack fly, Will, is the most exciting play in baseball. There is not a play in baseball more exciting than the sack fly.
That's interesting. I mean, I was a baseball player, so
What's more exciting than a sack fly?
A home run, a grand slam. It's pretty exciting.
Grand Slam probably is the one that you would nominate.
Yeah,
but
actually.
The reason Kirkchin says so is because it's a play that requires, it's the drama of the ball is hit and then the tagging up, the running, the throwing, so much happening on one play that has more drama than even a Grand Slam might have. That's the take.
I get where he's going to on that, but I don't know. In the right spot, though, you hit a grand slam, like you're down 3. That might top it.
It was Kirkchin because he had the book. I'm fascinated by sack flies is the name of the book.
That's terrific.
Oh, let's try to do these rapid fire. Let's go to Kyle, who's in Columbus. Kyle, 310-840-4910. What's your unusual question?
So I'm a diehard Notre Dame fan. Unfortunately, I'm married to an Ohio State Buckeye fan whose father is a Michigan fan. How do I root during that game? Because I would really like to see the stadium implode and the game tie every year.
I don't know. Tell me how you do it. What do you do?
I sit there and drink a lot of beer and eat a lot of food.
That's a great strategy. I think that's what I should have done the other night. That's a great question. Wow. Kyle, thank you so much for the phone call.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that's probably the answer. What do I do? Eat a lot of food and drink a lot of beer. I think it's a good answer. I probably should have followed that advice. Very wise stuff from the sage Kyle and Columbus there. How about Eric, who's in Jacksonville? 310-840-4910. Eric, what's your unusual question?
Really enjoy the show. My question is, what makes you think I didn't know that? I'll take my answer off air.
Thank you. What makes you think I didn't know that? I also I heard twice with the O sound. Even though he's from Florida, I could hear Maryland in his voice. As somebody who was born in Baltimore, I recognize the folks in Dundalk, how they talk. Not specifically that he's from Dundalk, but Ostros and Eddie Bozehan. I see what you did there, and I appreciate it. Let's do one more. Will's in Texas, 310-840-4910. What part of Texas are you calling from, Will?
Arlington.
Arlington?
DFW.
I like it.
DFW.
I like it.
DFW.
Good stuff. What's your unusual question for us?
Did you like Whataburger?
Wow. So to bring people back, I went to Whataburger for the first time 2 weeks ago. North Carolina had a chicken place called PDQ, it was a chicken joint. It was all across the state. And then the parent company of Whataburger bought all those PDQs and replaced them with Whataburger. I went and I liked it, But I made a mistake, Will. I made a mistake, and it's on me. The mistake I made was I forgot how burger joints just assume that you want onions on your burger unless you ask otherwise. And I even asked the guy up front, hey, what's on the burger? And I got like the big bacon burger that they had. And he said, bacon, 2 types of cheese, and this, and I'm excited about it. And then it comes out with onions, and it's busy lunch, so I don't want to bother them. So I just scrape it off, and it might have affected my initial view, but it's still a positive experience that I had. The burger was a lot bigger than I thought it would be. And I liked it, and the spicy ketchup, I was all for it. Are you pro Whataburger over In-N-Out?
100%.
Okay. What's the proper burger I need to get the next time I go?
Just the double. Just the double.
Just the double. Thank you, Will. Thank you for following up on that. I had a good experience. I was happy with it. There goes Will in Texas. I'm being told we want to go to Canada for one call. Let's go to Jose, who's in Calgary. Last unusual questions call is from Canada, and it's from Jose. Jose, go right ahead.
All the way up from north of the Rocky Mountains. Guys, I got a question. So in most amateur sports that are like close to professional level, like in hockey, the periods are pretty much the same as the pros. 3 periods, 20 minutes. In football, 4 quarters, 15 minutes. In baseball, it's 9 innings. But in college basketball, it's 2 halves instead of 4 quarters.
Yeah.
Why?
Okay, well, let me tell you. Jose, appreciate the call from Calgary. You got to remember that college basketball has been around longer than the NBA. And they played 2 halves, and there's history with that. And college sports initially were a lot bigger than professional sports in this country for a long, long time. And actually, women's college basketball, they've recently have gone to quarters. The men's have not gotten there because, as we mentioned, it's popular, it's historic, and people would have more pushback on getting it to happen. I live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I live in the heart of Tobacco Road, the heart of college basketball country. You will not find a place in America that cares more about college basketball than the place that I'm at right now. It's my favorite sport. I like the fact that it's different than the NBA. I like it. Especially if the game's going to be different lengths. Like, who cares if it's 2 20-minute halves when the NBA plays 48 minutes? Like, at least college football and the NFL, they're playing the same length game. It's a 60-minute game. It's different lengths in college and the NBA, so I'm fine with it being different. And by the way, I'm also in favor of college not allowing for advancing the ball on timeouts either, or else you don't get a play like the Christian Laettner shot at the end of that game in 1992 and some of the other great plays. So I'm in favor of differences. I'm in favor of college sports being different than the NBA. It's my pushback on having the college football playoff grow as much as they're looking at growing it. Don't make everything look like the NFL. Embrace the differences. It's a different sport, and that's what makes it special. But I do appreciate the call. Will Dalton, what do we got to put this show to bed?
It turns out this woman crashing onto a golf course was not the craziest part of this story.
What a fun edition of Unusual Questions. That answer to that question on that story is next.
Remember Deshaun Watson? He's been on IR the last 19 months. And now, the frontrunner to be the Browns starter. But Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel are coming for the job. As always, the quarterback carousel in Cleveland is one to watch. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports presents Josh Graham.
Yes, it does. This has been a fun Josh Graham show. Unusual questions, handing out some bets. We're on the Knicks plus 2.5. The Canadiens team total under 2.5 goals tonight. We'll see how the Carolina Hurricanes do. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. What could go wrong? We got Wicket that's on the way. After we get finished up here, he'll take you up until 11 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel if you missed any of the show. You can watch us in addition to listening to us. What a concept. Westwood One Sports Night is the YouTube channel that you can find us, and on X at Josh Graham Show. You can get at me there. Let's close out the program. Will Dalton's got a put it to bed story for us.
So this woman out in Florida, that's where she lives. A lot of interesting things happen down there.
Mm-hmm.
She was driving a red 2018 Hyundai. But here's the thing. She was driving it on the sidewalk. It's what her move was. And then she crashed it onto a nearby golf course. And then she just kind of sat there next to the vehicle. And she just kind of took in what she had done. And she popped something open. What did she pop open? But a little, medium-sized bottle of Fireball.
Oh, boy.
And
how large is a medium-sized bottle of Fireball?
Maybe a 10-ouncer, maybe 12. 12, maybe. I don't know.
Let me look up what sizes they sell.
Yeah.
Fireball.
Because it wasn't like an airplane bottle or anything, but it wasn't like a big one either. So when the police get there, and boy, they got there, they see her very incoherent, unbalanced, slurring her words. And it turns out she had 21 open bottles. It was 50 milliliter bottles, by the way. 21 open bottles of Fireball cinnamon whiskey.
How many milliliters?
Yeah. 50.
How many? 50 milliliters. Okay. Well, that's like...
Yeah.
That's not a lot. That's like a shooter style. Like...
Yeah.
The...
21 of them.
You can buy... Man, it's aggressive to buy a handle. Like, close.
Yeah.
Could you imagine buying a handle of Fireball? You can buy it. How much would a handle cost of Fireball whiskey here?
I'm going to guess
it's
$50.
I mean, nah, I don't think it's that, but reckless is what it is, more than anything else. I do love Fireball, though.
You like it? I tell you what my move was in college was to mix it with Cheerwine.
See, again, I was in charge. I never thought to do that. That's disgusting. When I was at the Final Four, I was in charge of trying to lead our group at Westwood One to the fun activities. And we went to, after a really nice dinner, really nice steak dinner, went to the Wild Beaver Saloon, sang some karaoke, jam-packed, can barely move college bar feel. And what do we get for the table or for everybody? Fireball shots, of course. One of them didn't want it, so I downed two of them. That's what I did.
Good for you.
There's judgment that comes along with liking Fireball. Again, don't.
Why is that?
People like what they like. You don't need to shame people for liking Fireball. Cinnamon. I like cinnamon.
Is it because Fireball is like more of a high school, college type of beverage?
No, I think it's
what
just,
it is?
It's people. It's like the people who drink the really dark beers, who are like, "Oh, you don't even know what good beer tastes like if you drink light beer." Oh, you don't even know
yeah.
If you're not pounding Guinness.
So Fireball isn't like, it's not as fancy enough, or just
correct. If you're that person that judges people for drinking Fireball, you're a pretentious douche.
I agree with that.
That's my stance.
That's good way to
Great
be.
timing for Tennessee whiskey.
Yeah.
Excellent. Enjoy. I don't think Wicket, by the way, is a pretentious douche. I don't think that's what he is. And that's why you should listen to him.
No, he's not.
For the next 4 hours. Thanks, Will Dalton. Thanks, Josh Jacobs. My name's Josh Graham. This has been The Josh Graham Show.
This is Westwood One Sports.